All right. Roll call. Please press your vote.
Supervisor Kleckner, if you could confirm. Supervisor Booty. Supervisor Stecker, if you could confirm. We have 20 present and 1 excused.
Okay, we have enough for a quorum. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion and a second.
All right. Are there any corrections or additions? If not, please vote your ballot.
You have to confirm. Supervisor Dietrich and Supervisor Draheim.
Confirm.
Supervisor Miller, Supervisor Kleckner, and Supervisor Lachey, if you would confirm. And Supervisor Karth. No. There are 20 ayes, no nays, 1 absent.
All right, we do have all right, you have your minutes before you. I need a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Supervisor Karth.
Right. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Are there 2 minutes?
Nope, just the one.
All right. If not, please vote your ballot.
You have to confirm. Supervisor Schwallenberg, Supervisor Stillman, Supervisor Lachey, Supervisor Kleckner, and Supervisor Karth. Confirm. Yours did. Supervisor Stillman. Well, you may have to press the A or nay again and then the confirm. Thank you. 20 yes, 1 absent. Motion passed unanimously.
All right. All right, now we have approval of the minutes of the June 18th County Board meeting.
We just did that.
We did that already? Okay. Communications.
There is just one communication, and it is the sign-up sheet for the new iPads, and I believe Howard has something to say about that.
Okay.
All right, on the iPad sign-up
Please
sheet
put
is-
the mic on.
It is on.
All right.
Okay. Sign-up sheet is going around. When you come up to get your new iPad, it will take 30 to 40 minutes to go through everything. Quite a bit has changed on the device management. It is a lot more robust than it was before, so you'll want to see.
Can you use this microphone? I can't hear.
Well, that's not working either.
That works.
No power.
All right, one more time. Sign-up sheet is going around. There's several days on there, so as you leaf through the sheets, you'll see the different days on it. It will take 30 minutes to 40 minutes to go through the complete orientation on this new software that we're using. The device management is a lot better than it was when we initially went through this process. So John O'Rourke will go through that with you, get you familiar with that, and give you the new iPads. Be sure to bring your old iPad along. We will be collecting those, and be sure to ask questions. And I guess that's all I have to say unless someone asks a question.
Howard, I had a question from one of the supervisors. They were wondering if you had like a cheat sheet that you could write things down for them to remember.
I'll get with John, and we'll get something put together to that effect.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Did you say remove pictures and programs and stuff?
Oh, yes. The main thing you want to take off of your current iPads is if you have pictures or videos, everything that you have on these iPads is going to disappear. So be sure to download those pictures somewhere where you can save them. If you don't, if you don't know how to do that, John or Rory can help you get that done when you're there. And that process may take a little bit longer, but we can help you do that also.
Okay.
Mary?
Excuse me, the emails that we've got saved, will they be automatically transferred over?
They will if it's the county email. Your personal email.
Oh,
What's that?
we don't use, hopefully, nobody's using it personally. Okay,
Well, yeah.
no, okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Howard.
Okay.
Any public participation? I believe there's none. None? Okay, thank you. All right, resolution.
Resolution 2019-17, resolution awarding the sale of 17 million general obligation county building bonds.
All right, do I have a motion to adopt?
I have a motion by Supervisor Steer, second by Supervisor Draheim.
All right, and Supervisor Gens, would you speak to this resolution? Unless you want to pass the gavel to someone else, it's up to you.
Which one are we on?
The resolution 2019-17.
Okay, I guess I'll pass the gavel on to Karen.
Well, actually, I'll pass it on to Karen. Since she was involved in the sale proceeds, so she can give you a heads up. We need to change our microphone.
Let's see if that one works.
Okay, let's give it a try. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. Okay, well, good evening. We have some great news for you tonight. We have a couple of handouts. One looks like this letterhead. This is the main handout that we're going to be reviewing. The other one is a booklet. And that booklet is for you to review at your leisure. It is the document that went out to solicit interest from investors. Okay, so it's called an official statement, but it's like a prospectus on the county. So for now, we're going to go through the handout with the letterhead on it, and it's called the Summary of Final Sale Results. This is the $17 million that the county is issuing as the first phase of 3 phases that will total $35 million for the new jail, as well as remodeling to the existing courthouse. Now, back on July 9th, I did a presentation to the administrative committee demonstrating the 3 phases of financing. The first phase was for $17 million, and we had certain interest rate projections based on actual sales that occurred in the market back on July 9th. And that interest rate was 2.76%. And when we looked at how much interest would be on this issue over 19 years, these are long-term bonds, that number was about $6.5 million. Okay, so that would be for all 19 years. So that's our starting point for this discussion, because now we prepared to access the municipal bond market, to actually sell these bonds in the marketplace. So we did that with coordinating the legal documents that you're going to be acting on tonight with your bond counsel, Quarles and Brady. We also prepared and distributed what's called an official notice of sale. This is a little different. In the past, the county did general obligation notes, which were limited to 10 years. As such, we were able to use a negotiated sale method where we actually sent out an RFP and selected an underwriter. When you're doing long-term bonds, the statutes don't allow for that. So we need to advertise to have an underwriter submit a bid. So that goes through a notice of sale out into the bond market, telling them when to place their bid, at what time, what day. We also prepared that official statement. That goes out into the marketplace. That's required by the Securities and Exchange Commission in order to be a complete disclosure document for investors. We also use that document in the bond rating process. We have to go through a bond rating with Standard & Poor's. Okay, so that's how you prepare to access the market. Now we get to the final sale results. Standard & Poor's reaffirmed the county's bond rating, which is a AA+ stable outlook. So that's great news, and the fact that they have reviewed all 3 phases of the financing plan. Okay, so this would be phase 1. We have another phase in 2020. We have another phase in 2021. That's subject to change depending on when you actually start construction, and we can see when you're going to have the need for funds. Okay, but right now that's the plan. Yesterday at 11 o'clock is when all the underwriters had to submit their bids. We received 5 bids, and we verified them. The winning bid was submitted by a company called Raymond James and Associates out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Okay. The final interest rate, which does include all expenses that are to be paid by the underwriter. That's part of the bidding parameters. When they place their bid, they know that they have to pay all expenses associated with this issue. So the interest rate came in at a 2.24%. Okay? That's 19-year bonds at a 2.24%. So that's more than 0.5% less than what we were projecting on July 9th. That's tremendous results. So at the bottom of that first page, I show you the difference between what was in existence on July 9th, called the projected rate and the projected interest cost, to what now actually is your final rate and final cost. And that results in $1.3 million of less interest than what we thought we were going to be paying on July 9th. Okay, so it's a great way to start the process. So with that, I'm going to turn to page 2. At the top, you're going to see the list of the bidders and how they came and where they came from. So you'll see in bold is the Raymond James bid. Right behind them was a bid from Robert Baird, but out of the New Jersey office. Very close bidding. The next one was from a Milwaukee firm. The next one was from an Illinois firm, Hutchinson Shockey. And the last one was Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, out of New York. Okay, so you can see you had very broad interest. Now, you received 5 bids. That does not mean only 5 firms in the financial industry participated in the purchase of your bonds. Each one of these bidders has what's called a syndicate. That means they have a group of firms that they're representing when placing their bid. So the bid is placed by the manager, but the manager takes control of the process for a number of firms. Okay, so collectively you would be talking possibly 100 different firms involved with this process. Okay, so what you're seeing is just the winning bidder. Now, they also are allowed to bid the bonds in such a way that produces some premium from investors, and I'll explain that to you on another schedule. And what we do with that, the only thing we can do with that premium is to apply it to debt service. So what we've done is we adjusted the repayment schedule. We pulled some bonds from the last year, the 19th year, and we brought them up to the first year so that we paid off your debt faster. And by doing that, we worked with the winning bidder and said, this is what we'd like to do. And they said, okay. Well, that saved you over $100,000. Okay, so we've tried to maximize your results. Now, you have a resolution that's also attached here in the back of this information that your county board action would actually accept this bid and award the bonds to the winning bidder. It locks in the interest rates and the tax levy. Okay, so that's what your action would do. The closing, which means all the money comes to the county at one time. That would happen on September 9th. Okay, so the $17 million goes into a project account premium goes into debt service. So now I'm going to walk you through the following pages, which shows you the final schedules, and it's going to be debt service pricing, and also some schedules that we always prepare for the county. We call it your bonding program, which takes into consideration a number of assumptions that include your existing debt and your tax base and the remaining phases of this borrowing plan to see what our goals are, so that whenever we do a financing, we have identified those goals in advance. Okay? So with that, page 3, numbered at the bottom, shows you the repayment schedule. Okay, we have principal in 2020. Then we don't have principal for a few years. Then we start up again in 2024, and we go all the way down to 2038. Now, the reason there is nothing in between there is because we're wrapping this around your existing debt. So this will become clearer when you go through the schedules that I've yet to show you. Okay, so you can see coupon means interest rate, and you pay interest twice a year. So again, these are long-term bonds. They do have a prepayment feature on them in the 10th year. So you can't stretch them out any more than they are. They can only go out a maximum of 20 years. But you can, if for some reason interest rates were lower than what they are on this schedule, you could take advantage of savings if that does happen. If not, it's also a time where you can just prepay bonds just by calling them in and levying for them. So it just becomes your financial flexibility. Okay? The next page, this is my favorite page, as the administrative committee knows. So this is a pricing schedule. I'll point out a couple things to you. First of all, when we talk about where's the market for these municipal bonds, okay? These are tax exempt federally. So if you were to own one of these and you'd receive interest, you would not pay taxes on it federally. You would pay taxes state. So your yield, you see, is kind of just a little bit left of the center. You see the column that says yield, all right? Starts at 1%, and the very last one is a 2.45%. So that's the difference between a 1-year investment or a 19-year investment. Now, in order to purchase them, these are fixed income securities. That means that the owner gets an interest check every 6 months. When yields are this low, the investor does not want to get a check for 1%. He wants a check for at least 2% or higher. So if you look to the left of the yield column, you'll see coupon. Coupon means interest rate. So you'll see all of those are in that range, 2%, 3%. In order for that investor to get that interest rate, he's got to pay a premium. He's got to front his principal. So if you look at, now I'm going the other way, to the right, you see the price column. Anything that's over 100 is a premium bond. Anything lower than that is a discount bond. All of that activity of taking that dollar price and multiplying it times the principal amount or the maturity value gives you the column to the far right-hand side of the page, the dollar price column. If you look at the total of the dollar price column, this purchase of, or this sale of $17 million would generate, or did generate, $17,787,595. Okay, so you sold $17 million, but got $17.787 million for that. So you receive premium. Now at the bottom of that dollar price column is some other math, and it's basically doing that. It's saying 17 plus the premium gives you the total. But then there's underwriter's discount in parentheses of $204,000. That's the money that is kept by the underwriter to pay himself, to pay municipal advisor, rating, bond counsel, all expenses. Underwriter keeps that premium. $204,000 of that premium. The rest of that premium comes back to the county. So the purchase price of $17,583,595 is what the county's going to get. $17 million is for the project account. The $583 goes into your debt service account. Okay, because that's all you can do at premium. Can't use it for projects. All of that math gives you the very last line on that page, the true interest rate, and that's where the 2.24 comes from. Okay? So that's the way municipals are priced in this very low yield environment. The lower the yields, the more the premium. Okay? Okay. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is because the next few schedules that you see, you're going to see that premium referenced on that page. So I want you to know where that number is coming from. So let's look at page 5. Page 5 represents all 3 phases of this financing plan, and that's what it is at this point. It's a plan. It can change depending on when future information becomes available to us about the project. For now, the plan, it starts with your existing debt service, which means all other debt that you've issued in the past, okay, which by 2027 is completely paid off. The next column over is the 2019 bonds, the principal and interest, which we've just seen on a previous page, but this is combined on a calendar year basis. So that's actual, that's final numbers. We move over to the right in 2020. Right now, we're estimating about another 10 million, and that's estimated at a 3.25%. And then we move over to the right again, 2021 bonds for 8 million, and the grand total of all debt service, which means your existing debt service plus all 3 phases, total that column on the far right. Now, with that, if we could go to the next page, this is the page that we always show you when you're planning to do a financing. And it's what we call your bonding program. What we try to establish here is the impact of your borrowing on your tax rate or your mill rate. We start with your equalized valuation on a TID-out basis. And you'll see the budget year 19, right, which is already, it was levied for last November, and taxes have been collected to pay your debt service this calendar year 19. Your valuation was the $3.9 billion. When we originally did this in July, we did not have your new 2019 value that's going to be used for budget year 2020. So we were estimating 3% increase. Well, now the number that's on the page for budget year 2020 is your actual new equalized value that just came out August 15th. That's a 6% increase. 6. Yeah. So that number is increased. That represents an actual. And then you'll see 3 more years that are only grown at 3%. We kept those at 3%. And then flat on the remainder. Okay? So obviously we always use very, very conservative interest rates, very, very conservative growth rates. It's always better to come back and say things are better than getting too overly optimistic. Okay, now we move to the right, and you'll see the 35 million 3-phase estimated debt service. This is for all 3 issues that we just looked at on the previous page. And then we move to the right and we say offsets. Okay, what's going to reduce our levy? Well, the first number is under premium. You can see that we have $533,000, but not all of the premium. We got over $580,000 of premium. Well, we have to be concerned about the federal laws that say the premium can only be used to pay your interest. So $533,000 is all the interest on this issue in 2020. So it's completely offset with the premium. There's some more premium, maybe about $50,000, that's actually going to be offsetting your 2021 payment for interest. Okay? So with that, and now we've also combined your existing debt. We produce a column, moving to the right, combined with existing actual, and then we divide that column into the equalized value column on the left side, and we get the mill rate. So last year the mill rate was 0.682. This year is 0.768, and we were at the 0.767, I think, figure when we looked at this on July 9th. Now, it's dropping after that, and it may continue to look like it's dropping, but when you do phase 2, we'll have better information. We'll know how much debt you're going to issue. We'll know possibly what your new valuation is going to be, and we will try and make it as nice and level as we can, so you don't have any jumps and fluctuations, okay? So this is the page that we continue to monitor every time, no matter what that you've issued in the past. We've always used this type of page with the assumptions to be conservative, okay? All right. Any questions so far? Okay. Yeah.
How come there's not a column then when you should have the interest rate and add back the mill rate to the interest rate, and then you get a real yield? How come you don't do that on here? They do it on other forms of borrowing, you know, where you have to disclose that, but I'm not sure if you have to do it for government, but, you know.
Okay, can you point me to which schedule you might be referring to? Because when you were asking the question, I'm seeing two different ones in my head as far as which. Are you looking at page 6, or are you looking at the pricing schedule, or, I mean?
Right now I was looking at page 6, but
Okay.
Going back to,
So you're looking for, what is the mill rate without the premium?
no.
that- no?
If you look at the interest rate, and then a lot of times they put the premium, you know, the dollars into the interest rate, and then you get a real interest rate. You know what I'm saying? Because you got, let's say on line, for 2019, the premium is $533,000.
Right.
Okay, and then it shows, no interest, or I'm sorry, estimated mill rate. Where's the interest rate? It's not on here.
Okay, what you're looking at on that page is,
Do you have a page that has that? When you show an interest rate, and then you should add back the mill rate, the premium, back into it raises the interest rate, obviously, because cause then you really know what the interest rate really is.
well, I mean, the interest rate
Because it's a way of
really
fudging, the numbers,
No,
really.
the interest rate is the pricing schedule, because as you've seen, all the underwriters are bidding on the issue, and you've seen the results of their bids. That is the interest rate.
Well, yeah, but you got this side deal called premium.
No, that's part of how municipals are sold. See, that
Well,
that goes
I
back
get
to
that,
page
but
4.
really you should add that money back into the interest rate, then you really know what the interest rate really is. It's a
Okay.
way to fudge the numbers to make the interest rate look
Because you're
good.
actually receiving the premium.
Okay.
Okay,
If you
now-
don't agree with me, that's
No,
fine.
This may help. It's not a matter of agree. This may help. Page 4. Okay, this is the pricing schedule. Now, what may help with that is if you look at the bid information at the bottom, you'll see the word average coupon. Okay, it's the third line up from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I'm aware of all of that.
Average
yeah.
coupon means that is the average of just the interest rate column.
Yeah.
Okay? That average coupon does not have the premium in it. So maybe that would help. And
Right,
that,
when there should be a column, in my view, maybe not everybody here, but you really want to know what the actual interest rate really is. You got the side number of the premium, and then you got the interest. But if you were to convert that premium back into an interest rate, it would raise that interest rate to a real number of
Okay.
what the interest you're really paying. Even though on paper it's a shell game, in a sense, how you guys do that. But for the average Joe out there on the street, they really want to know what the interest rate is. Not you, Joel. The average person on the street
Right.
would really like to know what the interest rate really is when you add that back.
Okay, then let me try to walk
I
you
know
page-
why you don't. I do. I went through all of this in school, so.
Okay,
anyway.
well, first of all, the real interest rate is a 2.25%. That is the
Yep.
real interest rate.
Second
of all-
That's how you're stating it. I agree.
Yes.
But, anyway, let's
Okay.
just drop it.
No, but I think this is important because this is, I think, what you're trying to accomplish is that on page 4, if you look on page 4, you'll see, starting from the bottom, you'll see the true interest cost, a net interest cost, and average coupon. The difference between those numbers, the average coupon assumes you are getting no premium. Okay? And that number is a 2.539%. That's assuming you're not getting any premium at all. Okay? So maybe that helps with there, but the fact is you are getting the premium. You are getting $583,000 deposited into your bank account. That's real.
Okay,
so
thank you.
that number is what adjusts the 2.53 average coupon and produces the true interest cost of the 2.24. That's the math.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. I got about 4 questions here. Great. Okay, did the sales tax change our bond rating?
No.
It didn't. Okay. As we were going through the sales tax, they said sometimes that makes a bond rating change. Okay, this Raymond James and Associates,
Right.
how long they been in business?
Oh, they're
Long time,
Pardon?
firm.
yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
If I had to guess, I would say 50 years, but that might even be like,
They're even on TV.
yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's only 50 years, they're not as old as me, see? so-
Well, I said it might be light. Okay.
Whatever. Okay, we got to take all this money all to once, right?
Yes,
Okay, but we're not going to have to use it all to once, right?
that's correct.
Okay, did Dan say if our investments would cover that 2.4% as we have it, or?
I'm not sure I'm following the question. You just took a loan.
Yeah,
So you're getting $17 million.
yeah, okay,
That money's going to be used for the construction of the new jail. It's going to be all spent probably the middle of next year. And then we're going to start another issuance sometime next year to continue on. It's a $35 million project.
well, yeah, okay,
So we only borrowed 17 this year.
okay.
Next year we'll borrow another 10, and in 2021 we'll do a wrap-up borrowing for whatever the remainder is that we need to pay for that project.
Okay,
So I'm not following what your question is.
if the money is sitting in our account, it's going to be spent, right?
Yep.
Okay, can we receive a little interest on?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, we're earning interest on the idle funds.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty fast spend down too.
well, I mean,
Recognizing that, like I said, the middle of next year.
well, yeah. Well, okay, is our interest rate that we're receiving enough to cover this 2.4, or 2.24, what we're,
No.
it's not?
Did you get 2.4 in your interest rate?
I don't know.
No, that's not where the market is right now. The Federal Reserve just dropped the interest rate, so it's under 2%.
Okay. Okay, if you go to page 6 here, and under combined estimated mill rate, you go from 2019 to 2020. Does that mean that our constituents' tax rate is going to jump that much? They're going to be they're going to be happy about that.
It's going to be that much for the amount of debt.
Yeah.
Now, on the operating side of the levy, that rate is actually going to go down. We've just started to get into the budget calculation for 2020, so I can't tell you exactly where the tax rate's going to be next year.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah, the debt rate is going to go up.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was part of, if you build a $35 million project, the
Yeah.
debt rate's going to go up.
Okay, then, like according to this schedule, like from 2020 to 2021, it should go down a little bit according to this. paper.
And as I pointed out before, this is a fairly conservative approach with, I think as Carol mentioned, she's using 3% growth for 3 years and then 0 growth after that. This year, we had 6% growth. So that rate, you know, if that holds true going forward, that rate's going to significantly drop.
Okay, can we pay off these loans like ahead of time if we come up with a bunch of money or something like that? Okay,
At the 10-year mark.
well, yeah, well, okay, or whatever that, okay. That's enough of my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor Loughran?
Thank you. You mentioned that the sales tax has no bearing on bond issues and rates.
I guess the question was, did the sales tax have impact on your bond rating? And I said no, in the sense that you have the S&P reaffirmed the AA plus stable outlook, which you have had for the last couple of ratings, before the sales tax, with the sales tax. There is reference to that in the credit report, which we haven't gotten to yet, but it does play a role in the sense that the county is planning to use sales tax to reduce the amount of borrowing needed for future projects, which is an important factor in the credit report. But it did not change your credit rating.
But it,
Well,
not in our situation, but it can change your rate.
if you're thinking of, can it change it positively for you to be upgraded, or if you're thinking of, could it possibly in some way change it negatively? I don't see it ever changing it negatively. In terms of changing it positive, there would have to be other factors, because you're only one notch away from a AAA, which is the highest rating achievable. So it would be hard to say that sales tax would put you over to another notch.
I
because
was
of that.
interested in lowering your rate, you know, affecting I thought we had some email on that from our finance director, whatever you were getting at.
Well,
But it has the ability to affect your rating.
what we were discussing was not necessarily the sales tax as much as the amount of debt that we're incurring for this project. And in the S&P rating, Carol hasn't gotten to that yet, but in the S&P rating, they are concerned about how much more beyond this project that we're going to be borrowing for. And the point was made to them that our intent is not to borrow, it's to use the county sales tax to pay for capital projects that historically we used to borrow for. If you're asking about negative impacts, I guess one potential negative impact would be to deviate from that plan, to not use the sales tax for capital projects, but to use it for operations. And I would think that, I'm guessing, but I would think Standard & Poor's or Moody's would look at that and say that's a financial management mistake to do that. And
Okay.
potentially downgrade.
All right,
the
thank you.
result.
Anybody else? All right, there are no further questions, so you want to, Representative Kleckner?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Currently we're in an inverted bond market. Are there any implications for this bonding decision that were considered because of that inverted market?
Well, the timing of that really occurred just about last week.
Oh, okay.
When
So
that happened,
it's all settled.
what happened is that there was more of a flight to safety with regard, and the reason for that negative inversion is because of the demand on purchasing treasuries. That's what drives it down. When you have a strong demand for the treasury, everybody wants to buy it, right? Then the price was driven down on the treasuries. When the treasuries go down, so do the yields on the municipals. We've seen the yields on the municipals drop 10 to 15 basis points, 1/10% or better, within a week's time. So coming to market and and taking bids yesterday, after that occurred, you actually received a benefit on these bonds by that timing.
So we got lucky.
So you got lucky. Right?
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Okay. Okay, then the next thing in this handout is your credit report. Okay, it says ratings direct, right, from S&P. So if you go to, open it up to the first page, you'll see the paragraph that says rationale, and that paragraph says that S&P assigned the AA+ long-term rating, and they do it to these bonds, and they also affirm that rating on all bonds that the county has outstanding prior to the sale. And it talks about the purpose. It talks about a credit summary. And this credit summary really gives the rationale as to how they arrived at that rating. And it says Calumet's continued economic stability and strong management led to finances that outperform budgeted expectations. Okay, so again, that's credit to the county, credit to administration, to the county board. It talks about the purpose of the borrowing for the jail project, the courthouse project, but it does say that will significantly increase the county's debt. We did talk about this when we were rated last October. So they did have reference to this in that credit report. So if you go pull that credit report, you will see reference to the potential to borrow money. And I think we were using about $25 million at that time as an estimate. So now they do say this debt was expected, and although it is somewhat larger than anticipated, it ultimately has not changed our view of Calumet's credit profile. Okay, so I think that's important to understand. And then it says the county is collecting a sales tax that it will use to pay for yearly capital projects, so we expect the debt profile will moderate in the next 5 years. Okay. That sums up the whole report right there. Now, the way they arrive at the AA+ is through a method of scoring. Unfortunately, we never get to see the scorecard, but they give us little hints of key words that mean something in the scoring. So you'll see there the bullet points. The key words are strong, very strong, weak. Okay, those are key words. Each one of those words has a number assigned to them on the scorecard. The idea is to get the lowest possible number. So very strong would have a number 1. Okay, strong would be like a number 2. All right, so I think weak is probably, because there's adequate and then weak. So weak is at the bottom. So that's the method that they use to create a score. But the score is not the end of the rating process. You are scored, and then there's a committee discussion. And the committee talks about things that are happening that don't simply result in a calculation done. Okay, it talks about what's going on, what the intentions are of the county, what policies may be in existence at the county. Okay, it doesn't end with just a math calculation that produces a score. So you'll see the strong and very strong repeatedly, except for the second from the last, which they now put a weak on the debt and contingent liability profile. And that's because of the dollar amount that we're issuing versus what the county had outstanding before. Okay? So that's the change. It did not change your rating, it just changed the scoring. All right? Now, turning to the next couple of pages, you're going to see paragraphs. Now you're going to have every one of those bullet points in a paragraph form. So at the top of the next page, you're going to see strong economy and the discussion there about your tax base, your employers, your taxpayers. The next paragraph, The next category is strong management, and you're going to read about the things that they consider when they score that category and all your policies and procedures. Then you're going to go under strong budgetary performance, and there you'll talk about the year-end 2018 audit and also how is 2019 doing, okay? So both of those things are taken into consideration in your strong budgetary performance. Then I'm going to move you to the next page, which has very strong budgetary flexibility. That's as high as you can go in their ranking, okay? Very strong liquidity. Those usually go together. All right, and there you're talking about your fund balance, your cash position, right, which represents your financial flexibility. Then you get to the weak debt and contingent liability. So again, they talk about how, you know, they've got to that point of calling it weak. They do a calculation of how much debt is outstanding, and they take it and divide it by certain numbers like your total governmental fund revenue or your governmental fund expenditures, and they come up with a percentage. And where that percentage falls in their matrix, that's how you're scored. Now, you'll see the second paragraph talks about the 17 million. It talks about, you know, this issuance doubling the county's debt to 33.8 million. One of the things that they did not do, and we talked about this extensively, is when they're doing their calculations, you have about $3 million plus being paid out of your existing debt on December 1. That money is in the bank. It's in your debt service fund. You can't do anything but pay off debt with it. They won't give you credit for that. So that, again, is a calculation, but they will not take off the money that you already have in the bank for that payment. So that, of course, affects the calculation. So I just kind of want you to put that in perspective and understand how they arrive at their numbers, okay? So that's one of the issues right there. When we put, and you'll see that in the official statement, and you get to any pages that talk about your debt outstanding, it's not going to be showing 33.8 million, all right? So, and they also count your lease in that payment. Your lease is also paid off on December 1. They did not subtract that number out. That's like $800 and some thousand. All right, so anyway, and then the next thing they talk about is the slowing of amortization to less than 65% in 10 years. Okay, so far in the past, the county's always done 10-year notes. All of your debt was paid off in 10 years. 100% was paid off in 10 years. Now you're doing 19 or 20-year bonds, which you would do for a building. You're not going to pay off your building in 10 years. That calculation of how much debt is paid off in 10 years is, of course, going to be longer as a percentage. That's the change. All right? So, again, I just want you to be totally comfortable with what they're saying and why they're saying it. All right? So that's what's going on here. They do say in that paragraph that the county plans to use newly collected sales tax for all other capital expenditures in the future. And then they make a prediction. For approximately the next 5 years, we expect the county's debt to be what we consider weak, but in 2025, it will regain what we consider rapid amortization. That's their prediction. We don't even know that, because as we issue the debt and we look at the other factors that we just looked at on your bonding program, that's how we determine your amortization. So again, this is an analyst's prediction. And then they're predicting by 2025 you will regain rapid amortization. Well, yeah, you're going to be 5 years down the road, so something that you issued as 19-year debt will now be out for 14 years. So I guess you would be, you know. So that's how they're arriving at their numbers. And then there's a paragraph about your sales tax. Effective April 1, 18, the county began collecting the 0.5% sales tax. And they talk about how much you collected in 18. The county plans to use this money for pay-as-you-go capital projects and to eliminate the need to bond outside of unusually large projects, which are not expected for the next 10 years or more. Collections have been significantly higher than budgeted, and management reports, it will have plenty of revenues to cover annual capital needs. Okay? That's the way we were talking about, the reference to the sales tax. Okay? So this is what their expectations are based on the rating conversation we had at this time. Okay? So I talk a little about pension. The next page talks about the stable outlook. When they put an outlook on, it says that they're telling the marketplace that they don't expect to make any rating change for a window of 2 years. That's based on what they have heard now. So that's what an outlook means. Okay? And they give an upside or downside scenario. Okay, and basically, you know, if the county, they would lower the rating if the county issued additional debt above what is currently expected, all right? And to them right now, what is currently expected is a $35 million borrowing over 3 years. Okay? All right, that's your credit report. All right, now you get to the resolution. The resolution is prepared in the same format as all resolutions have, in the sense that it goes back. It talks about when the county board adopted the initial resolution. That was on May 21st. It talks about that we held a sale of the bonds, that they had 5 bids, that we had distributed the notice of sale, that the purchaser is the Raymond James. And they reference all that by exhibits to this resolution. So the rest of the resolution talks about the terms when you pay principal and interest, that you have a prepayment feature, that you have a tax levy to support the debt service, that money goes in a debt service account, the project money goes into a project account and can only be used for the purpose on the resolution. Nothing else. Can never find its way into the operating budget. The resolution itself goes through page 7, and then you'll see a number of exhibits attached. And the exhibits is what's new. So you might have seen the resolution in draft form. It did not have the exhibits. The exhibits is what makes it final. So you'll see Exhibit A is an official notice of sale. That's the document that went out to the marketplace. That in itself is numbered at the bottom. It goes to page 7, but it goes beyond that. There's some additional exhibits to that document. So that keeps going. It's about 9-10 pages long. And then there is a Exhibit B, which is, again, a list of bidders. It's called the bid tabulation, and that was in my report. And then there's an Exhibit C, which is the bid form. And that's the contract between the county and the underwriter. That's how he places his bid. And then that's followed by the pricing schedule that you have seen earlier in the report, and followed by the repayment schedule that you have seen in the report. The last exhibit is called a form of bond, which really is just a template for when the bonds are prepared. There's one for each principal amount. Okay. Are there any questions?
All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the resolution. Are there any more discussion? If not, please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Loughran, could you confirm? Supervisor Schwellenberg, Supervisor Booty, Supervisor Dietrich, Supervisor Miller. There's 20 ayes, 1 excused. It's unanimous.
We have an unanimous vote, so that resolution has been adopted. Moving on to Resolution 2019-18.
Resolution adopting a citizen participation plan for community development block grant proposals and project implementation introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
Motion to adopt.
There's a motion by Supervisor Steer, second by Supervisor Baraboo.
All right, and Supervisor Gintz, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calumet County wishes to participate in the Community Block Grant Program funding, which comes out of the Wisconsin Department of Administration. Here again is another tool that we hope can be utilized to help our economic development posture in the county. In order for that to occur, we need a citizen participation plan which helps to apply for and administer the community development block grant. Now, that was attached in our materials, and hopefully, as you prepared for tonight, you had a chance to look at that plan. It should mirror the demographic posture of our county, and would be utilized in helping to develop those grants, the application for those grants, and also utilized in the carrying out of those grants. Thank you.
Are there any questions of Supervisor Gens? One moment, please.
Supervisor Hartle.
Supervisor Hartle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if I'll have a chance to talk about this later because I look like there's a plan in the administrator's report. But I'm wondering how many people will be on the board and how they'll be selected. I know I was sort of brainstorming with myself, which is so entertaining. And I was sort of thinking that maybe having even one member from every district.
I'm going to have Mary Correll answer your question.
Okay. Thank you.
Is this working?
No.
Okay, I will talk loudly. So there will be a low to moderate income person on the committee, and then other members of the local governments who are going to participate in the plan process.
Just a second, we're having audio problems here.
Sorry, I could hear myself just fine. So we will have a low to moderate income person, at least one, and then we will have members of the communities that are going to participate in the plan. We will welcome additional people to be part of this committee. We want the actual plan to be as robust and as reflective of our local needs as possible. So if you have ideas for people that you would like to see on this committee, please, by all means, share their names and contact information. I would say probably in terms of quantity, about 10.
Thank you.
All right. Supervisor Stillman?
Thank you. What kind of dollars can we expect if this goes through, or would this end up being a cost share if we get some development, or how would something like this work?
Okay, so this is, the Calumet County's revolving loan fund had an account balance of about $1.3 million. So when the state closed the revolving loan fund program, the county turned its money, we were required to turn our money back to the state. So this process allows us to apply for our $1.3 million back to be used locally. The hope would be that our dollars can actually be used as match to leverage additional grants in addition to just the $1.3 million.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right. Supervisor Hartle, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Supervisor Lachey?
Yeah, I have just a question. You indicated that, and I read the resolution, and you listed a number of professional people that'll be on the committee, but you just indicated that there will only be one individual that would be of low income. I find that a little bit off-centered somewhat, because I would think you'd want...
It will be at least one.
At least one.
We are required to have at least one, and then those other categories, the real estate, the banker, the labor representative, those are not required by the federal government, but having at least one low to moderate income person is required.
Okay, my biggest concern with these funds, and I'm quite familiar with them, is that, you know, they're not geared towards for profit, and, you know, not really serving the people that are in need of that. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Lachey. Any other questions? All right, please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Gens,
Thank you, Mary.
Supervisor Lachey, Supervisor Kleckner, Supervisor Baraboo, Supervisor Lochran, Supervisor Dietrich, and Supervisor Draheim.
I guess you have to really press these very hard.
Actually, you don't have to press hard, but you have to make sure, press it lightly and then press the confirm right away. Supervisor Baraboo, yours did not, and Supervisor Gens, yours did not. All right, we have 19 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 excused.
So that resolution is adopted. Moving on to Resolution 2019-19.
Resolution amending the 2019 budget for the EPA Community-Wide Brownfield Assessment Grant, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
I'd have a motion to adopt.
I have a motion by Supervisor Booty, second by Supervisor Draheim.
All right, and Supervisor Gens, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This resolution makes known that we've been awarded a $300,000 grant from the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, the grant is for the identification of community-wide brownfield areas, and the amount of money that we're getting not only allows us to speed up the assessment of brownfields within the county, but also gives us a boost to clean up those brownfields. And so this would be a big boost for economic development purposes, as we'd be able to get that work done. So the resolution is, first of all, looking for an adjustment to the budget, $300,000 worth of revenue, $300,000 worth of expenses, and names our county administrator to act and sign documents on behalf of the county in regard to this award.
Are there any questions? All right, please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Weinberger, Supervisor Kleckner, Supervisor Shu, Supervisor Lochran, Supervisor Draheim, Supervisor Kleckner, there's 20 ayes, 1 excused.
All right, that resolution is adopted. Moving on to Resolution 2019-20.
Resolution amending the 2019 budget for the establishment of a Natural Resources Conservation Service Great Lakes Restoration Initiative Demonstration Farm Network, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee and Land and Water Conservation Committee.
All right, a motion to adopt.
I have a motion by Supervisor Booty and a second by Supervisor Steer.
And Supervisor Gens, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is kind of an exciting opportunity that we have. The Natural Resources Conservation Service is the federal arm of looking out for our natural resources. They have an office right here in Calumet County. We have a great working relationship between our Land and Water Conservation Department and the NRCS here. NRCS has a program whereby they fund demonstration farms across a given area. And these demonstration farms are exhibits of some really creative and extensive conservation practices, allows us to use those demonstration farms for educational purposes, and also gives an opportunity for farmers to actually take a look at those practices, talk to the farm operators involved with that own these demonstration farms, and we have an opportunity to over a 3-year period to receive $192,225. It means that we want to make a effort with Manitowoc, Sheboygan, Fond du Lac, and ourselves. Extensive work has been done by our Land and Water Conservation directors, and so we would like to move ahead with this project. We've been asked to be the fiscal agent for this 3-year project, and it does mean that each of the counties over a 3-year period would contribute $12,000, $4,000 a year for each of those 3 years. And so the resolution looks for us to amend our budget to take in the $192,225, and also to take a make a commitment of $12,000 over that 3-year period. And also, we're asking to be the fiscal agent, for this project. Thank you.
Supervisor Booty?
Thank you. So it was said that this is a commitment on behalf of Calumet County of $12,014 over a 3-year period. So just a little more than $4,000 per year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Why is Calumet County paying that all up front in 2019? Could we not pay $4,000 in 2019 and then $4,000 in each of the subsequent years?
I'm going to have Tony talk to you about that.
So the reason the whole amount is put in, and Dan, if you have a comment on this too, but NRCS's fiscal year ends September 30th. So when they're allocating funds, they have these funds now. They need the commitment so that they can allocate the full funding amount. So that's why they need the commitment from us. We're having to do the budget amendment because as the fiscal agent, we'll be doing an agreement with NRCS before the end of their fiscal year in September 30th.
So as I understand it, the reason this is being taken...
We're committing the $12,000, but we're not spending the $12,000 up front. So we'll carry those budget dollars forward into the next 2 fiscal years.
We're pledging to not paying.
So we're essentially going to, maybe not necessarily, but I'm going to use the terms, creating like a segregated fund where we're just going to move this into there and then take it out over 3 years.
Every year the committee, or the county board passed through the committee, has a certain number of projects that don't get completed all in one fiscal cycle. So this $192,000 project is a 3-year project, but we need to make a commitment this year to be able to get the grant award. we're not gonna spend $192,000 this year. It's gonna be over the next 3 years. So there'll be resolutions coming forward, and historically there are, saying that these projects haven't been completed, they need to be carried forward into the next fiscal year. This particular project will be added to the list of those incomplete projects at the end of the year.
Okay, and the reason this is being done as a budget amendment and not in part of the normal budget is because, as was stated, the federal government's budget year does not run concurrent with county's budget year, and therefore we need to take action on the federal government's calendar year or budget year.
They want us to take action now so that we can apply and get awarded for it in September.
I see. Well, I think my opinion about budget amendments is well known, and I do like the project. I don't like the amending the budget. I think we should always do it as part of the normal budget process, but thank you.
All right. Supervisor Lochran? All right. Supervisor Draheim?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. They want us to take the lead. Are we going to get any monies that we're taking over the project, or what?
No, Calumet County wouldn't get anything, but it's the opportunity to provide outreach. I mean, I think our payoff is that we should see greater interest in conservation, and more people coming to us for that, and it gives us the mechanism to be out, you know, when they have field days and things like that for these demo farms, to be out there talking with the producers, as well as the producers talking among themselves, which I think is a pretty important component that doesn't always happen. So it's really education and outreach, and it's a big part of our land and water plan, and finding good mechanisms to do that is sometimes hard. And I think this is a really good way of doing it. There's other projects, one in the Lower Fox River, a new one in the Upper Fox, which would be on the west side of Lake Winnebago. Also one up in the peninsula. The one that's been around the longest is the Lower Fox, and that started off, I think, with only 2 farms. It's grown to 8, so there's more farms wanting to be part of these and be a demonstration farm. And their field days have grown too. Their field days started off with, you know, maybe 5, 10 farmers, a lot of agency staff. Now it's kind of overwhelmingly become farmers coming to these events as the word's gotten out and they've grown. So I think it's a pretty good deal.
To me, it sounds like it's too late. It seems like the farmers are going out left and right, and how many are you going to have left except the big ones after a while? I hope it helps, but I don't know. Thank you.
Supervisor Stillman?
Thank you. Is there such a thing that some of the other counties don't want to commit to this $12,000, you know, over the 3-year period, or do you think that they would? It seems like Fond du Lac County's always been kind of reluctant to do things others don't want.
Actually, Fond du Lac and Sheboygan's given me a very solid yes. Fond du Lac's working through their budget process, as most counties are right now too. Same with Manitowoc. If one of them or 2 of them were not able to budget this, and I've asked this question specifically of NRCS on what would happen, we would simply extend the project out, because I've explained that this budget amendment is for $12,000 and we can't exceed that. So that was a question I had too, and it would just be a smaller project for a longer amount of time.
All right, there are no further questions. Please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Karth, Supervisor Kleckner, Supervisor Schwellenberg, Supervisor Stecker, Supervisor Dieter, Supervisor Hartle, Supervisor Lachey. There's 19 ayes, 1 nay, 1 excused.
All right, we have a resolution that's been adopted. Moving on to Resolution 2019-21.
Resolution authorizing grant application for the Stockbridge Boat Harbor Piers, introduced by the Parks Commission. We have a motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Supervisor Steer.
All right, and Supervisor Schwallenberg, would you speak to this resolution?
Yes, thank you. It's very self-explanatory. It's, the resolution is to apply for the grant for normal maintenance work at our Stockbridge Harbor piers, etc.
Are there any questions regarding this resolution? All right, place your ballot.
Supervisor Weinberger, Supervisor Lachey, Supervisor Kleckner, Supervisor Baraboo, Supervisor Schwallenberg, Supervisor Stecker. There are 20 ayes, no nays, 1 excused.
All right, that resolution is adopted. Moving on to Resolution 2019-22.
Resolution setting the 2020-2022 County Board compensation, introduced by the Committee on Rules of Order of the Calumet County Board of Supervisors.
Motion.
Motion by Supervisor Booty.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Hartle.
All right, and Supervisor Booty, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you very much. So the resolution is mostly self-explanatory. The way that the Committee on the Rules of Order came up with the amount of $180 per month is that it was roughly, or it is equivalent to the rate that would be a per diem of 1 out-of-county meeting and 1 in-county meeting per month. And so that is how we established that rate. Most counties throughout the state of Wisconsin do have either a salary or some other kind of remuneration for the county board chair, and some also have it for the county board vice chair. Whereas Calumet County does not have anything in particular for the chair, we decided to establish something for this upcoming term.
Questions? Supervisor Drahan.
Thank you. So this doesn't come up until after election? So nothing is done before that? So it can be voted out at that time? Thank you.
Supervisor Stillman.
Thank you. Is there like a figure now what the county board chair does receive for, as compensation, or?
No, there is not. I just receive per diem like all supervisors.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Lochran.
Thank you. My question was the same, wanting to know what the average salary was or the amount of dollars for the past 3 chair people. I think we should be able to, that should be able to be public knowledge for us. You know, if you're getting, I'm not certainly against you getting more money than you're probably getting now, but I would like to know what that average has been, you know, for the past 3 years. Pretty, you know, we used to have that, we would receive a schedule of what the each board member made. If you're getting your, the point I'm going to get to is, why do we need to do this? Why not just give a base salary to that job? Anything else, Mr. Matt? Thank you.
Are you asking, what are you asking for, Patrick, regarding the compensation for the current board chair over the last 3 years?
I'm asking for the last 3 chair people.
Oh.
It shouldn't be, you should be able to have that quite handy.
I don't have it handy tonight.
That's all right, then we
Okay.
won't vote tonight. Or I wouldn't vote for it. But what,
Sure.
what's the point of not having, going to a salary versus,
I think, well, the term salary regarding this $180, essentially that's what it is. It's a cash monthly payment, which you could consider salary. There's no other compensation, non-cash that goes along with it. If the chair so chooses not to attend, as the Rules Committee has identified the rate, the per diem, I mean, how they came up with that $180, it will just be a flat payment paid to the chair regardless, in addition to per diem of meetings they attend, he or she attends.
so it's based on attending 2 meetings?
One in county, one out of county.
Right.
Yes. But it's a payment they're going to get regardless if they attend those or not. So it's basically salary.
Okay, so it's a salary, yeah. All righty, thank you.
Supervisor Gens? Or, excuse me, Supervisor Karth, excuse me.
Thank you. A question. Do you think that the county board chair puts in between appearances, emails, follow-up on questions, more than 25 hours per month? Fair to say, correct?
Are you asking me that question?
I'm asking anybody who can answer it.
Yes, it's more than that.
It's more than that. So to the people who are concerned about $180 a month, if she puts in 25 hours a month, that means that we're paying her the federal minimum wage to do a very important job. So something to think about when you go to vote. $180 for the work she's doing is very minimal. Thank you.
Supervisor Gens?
Thank you. I can speak to it from the time that I was chairman of the board for almost a decade, and I was just paid the per diem meetings that I attended, just like any other supervisor. I wasn't given any other stipend or remuneration, because I was a county board chair. And I can tell you that, it's probably more like 20 hours a week. If you want to be involved and to really take care of business of being the chair of this board, you're called upon in a whole myriad of questions and meetings and special time that you review things. So the $180 a month it doesn't, but you don't have that role because you're looking at the money that's in it. And but I can tell you that, I put in at least 20 hours a week when I was county board chairman. And Bill, you can talk to it.
During my term, it's probably more. I had a kind of a rocky term.
You did. Yes. Yeah.
I would just like to say, and I'm not aware of this, but I do put in more than that a week. Sure. And there's many meetings and things I attend that I don't even charge for. So, if that helps you. Supervisor Booty.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I probably should have mentioned in my original statement, because the county board chair who attends various meetings throughout the county and outside of the county can only claim the per diem for officially agendized meetings for the county board and committees, boards, and so forth under it. The board chair cannot claim per diems for attending various other meetings of other towns, villages, and cities throughout and outside the county. Therefore, we decided to add this. And like I said, we came up with that figure just by adding up on the assumption that there is at least one meeting within the county and at least one meeting outside the county every month that is attended.
Supervisor Loughran.
Thank you, Matt, for the clarification there, and I understand now that the 180 basically is to compensate for the time where you cannot get per diem. Are we in order for a motion to accept that?
I have one person to ask,
Okay.
wants a question, Supervisor Weinberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things occurred when Supervisor Booty informed us that it was $180 a month. And I enjoyed hearing the past chairmans, what their thoughts are and how many hours they work. And my first term was electing you as the chair. And so all I've ever known is Chairman Connors working her tail off here. She gives it her all. I just, $180 is, I don't know, that to me seems a little low. Is there any way to change that to $500 a month? $1,000? I don't know. It just, $180 is almost an insult, in a sense, for the work that she provides. Thank you.
Supervisor Lucia.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one additional comment. There are a number of us that have previously served as a committee chair or currently serving as a committee chair, and we all know that there's more time spent as a chair for these committees than are allocated per the diems. So, you know, this isn't a compensation, maybe not for each of us, but it is for at least the county board chair of the council. So I would recommend that you know, we really look at that. We do spend more time as a chairperson in preparing for each of these committees. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, please vote your ballot. And remember, this is for the next term.
We got a quick one.
Supervisor Diedrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move to amend this resolution to increase the compensation to $300 per month, not the $180.
Second.
All right, I have an amendment to the motion to increase it to $300 from the $180.
You need to wait for me
And
for a
just one moment till Beth gets us in the computer.
Supervisor Dietrich, could you put your motion in?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, this is for the amendment. Yep. Supervisor Weinberger, you did not make the second. Just- I know, but
I apologize.
Supervisor Dietrich, could you make the motion again, please? And then Supervisor Steer, please second. Thank you. Ready.
Okay, we're voting on the amendment. Is there any discussion regarding the amendment? Please vote your ballot. What's the question? We're on the amendment.
The amendment is to change the amount to $300 per month.
From 180.
Supervisor Gantz, Supervisor Lachey, could you confirm? Supervisor Dietrich, Supervisor Stecker. Supervisor Draheim.
We're voting on the amendment. Okay. Confirm.
You can't vote? Press the other one, then confirm. Okay. All right, there are 16 ayes, 3 nays, 1 abstain, 1 excused.
So the amendment has passed.
The amendment has passed.
All right, now we're at the voting on the main issue as amended.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? Okay,
Just wait, just wait. We're not voting yet.
we're not voting yet.
Any discussion?
Is
Ken,
there-
you want to make yourself here, present, please? You just marked yourself absent. You want to make yourself present? You. Okay.
There we go. Any discussion?
Is there any discussion?
If there is no discussion, then please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Gantz, Supervisor Schwallenberg, Alice, Supervisor Dietrich, Supervisor Stoffel, Supervisor Baraboo, Supervisor Draheim. You guys are giving me gray hair. There are 17 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstained, and 1 excused, so the main motion has passed.
All right. Moving on to Resolution 2019-23.
Resolution supporting creation of a Calumet County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, introduced by the Health and Human Services Board.
Motion?
Motion by Supervisor Steer, second by Supervisor Schwallenberg.
And Supervisor Schwallenberg, would you speak to this resolution?
I will try, thank you, after all this, it's keeping us awake here. This actually came to us instead of Police and Protection, because Police and Protection had already met. I guess I thought either as a district attorney or as a judge when nobody showed up. Anyway, we've talked for quite a while about having a second judge so that we could have a drug treatment court. They are telling us that we're falling down on the list. The district attorney came to our Human Services meeting and said that whoever they spoke to said that we will be off the list if we don't have this council in place. But as you see by the resolution, we won't have the council unless we get a second judge first. We only have 1 judge, and we're one of very few counties in the state that only have 1 judge. So they're also encouraging us as board members to write to our legislators and even the governor, encouraging them to give us an extra judge to start this process. And Todd, if you can fill in any bigger details here.
This has been on our to-do list for a long time. We're one of very few counties that doesn't have a criminal justice coordinating council or coordinating committee, and it has been simply because we only had the 1 judge. So the requests have come from board supervisors for many years for this, as well as a treatment court. The judge contacted me, I think, within maybe a week before Health and Human Services Board, so the priority was to get it moving forward sooner than later. According to the judge, he's saying he has heard from Supreme Court that without the CJCC, we would not be on the list for the second judge. I have not confirmed that with anyone. We've drafted the resolution in this way simply because if we get the second judge, of course, we would move forward with programs such as Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee and Treatment Court, because that's what we've talked about for several years. So that's why it's here today.
Are there any other questions? Supervisor Draheim.
What happened to the committee that we had for the judge he ran the meetings and all that. You know what that is?
Oh, that's.
I don't know what it was called.
Resource Committee?
That-
Criminal Justice
Courtroom
Committee?
security. No, it wasn't that.
No, that was in the rules forever and never met because there was nothing for that group to do. So I think over time, and I don't know, Matthew, if you recall, if you were chair of rules at the time, or if it's been since that, prior to that, that it was gone from the rules because it had no purpose, really. There was nothing for that group to do. If I'm thinking of the correct committee. Do you remember that one?
Criminal Justice Committee.
Oh, it was the stakeholders one. That was for regional law enforcement, right? Regional jail, that kind of thing. That's what that group was about, right?
No.
It was the Criminal Justice Committee. I was on it.
Criminal justice.
And we very seldom ever met because we didn't have anything to meet for.
It was specifically in your rules
Sure.
for regional, studying regional facilities for law enforcement.
There was always something on a committee, to talk about. They wanted to talk about securing the whole courthouse, having one entrance, the key lock situation, all that stuff was always brought up.
That's something else. What you're referring to is specifically court security, and that is run by the judge. It's not in the rules, it's the judge's committee, and he makes requests for agenda items on a regular basis for that. I think it's quarterly.
But wouldn't they be doing about the same thing?
It's completely different.
Really?
Yeah. A criminal justice coordinating committee is specifically multidisciplinary. So it's law enforcement, police departments, local police, sheriffs, human services for treatment purposes, different stakeholders that exist throughout the state, county by county, but it's they have some specific things that they would identify as a mission. So for example, one that I was aware of, just to give you an example. So the principal mission for this criminal justice coordinating committee out of Eau Claire is to enhance public safety through community collaboration by ensuring offender accountability, providing rehabilitation programs, supporting the rights and needs of victims. So there's different groups that are involved. They do mission, vision, and then they end up, some of them have actually grown to the point where they have a budget and have staff, depending on the size of the committee.
Thank you.
Doesn't necessarily have to be county staff driven either, just so you know.
Supervisor Booty?
Yeah, Todd, you were kind of getting at this in your, the last thing you were saying there, but what is the typical makeup of this? I know you said it's interdisciplinary. Are we bringing in people from the sheriff's office, the health and human services at the same time, and what other departments are we bringing in?
So if you think about anybody that may be involved with either victims or offenders, so law enforcement, victim witness, district attorney, public defender, treatment, so human services and or private treatment providers for drug and alcohol or mental health. Anybody else I'm missing? I think that's...
Does that answer your question? Supervisor Stillman?
Thank you. If you want us to call our legislators and the governor, if we would have some talking points of what counties have, with a population of so much, have 3 judges and we're getting ripped off and stuff like that. If we could get some information, so it would be a talking point, to help us out if we could, so.
We do have those, Dwayne. We can get you those. I can have them sent to
Yeah.
everyone. I believe the last time I asked for them was from Judge Freilich, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah. Once you get it to the whole county board maybe and see if somebody do something, so. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Diedrich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the Health and Human Services meeting, we had the benefit that the district attorney came by and talked to this, and he stated, just so you know, one example, they brought up Mattawa County. I don't know their population. It's a little bit bigger than us, but they have 3 judges, and they've had 3 judges for a long time. But he stated that he didn't believe the judge
would be able to support a CJCC until we had another judge. In other words, he's saying it doesn't have enough time because it takes a lot of time for the judge to be involved with the treatment court and this kind of committee. So the district attorney kind of said, well, until we have a judge, we can't have a committee. This resolution talks about a joint creation of a judge and a committee, in essence. Kind of, it implies there'd be a simultaneous effort. We just heard the administrator say that he heard that the Supreme Court says if we don't have a CJCC, we're off the list altogether for a second judge. So my question is this, Madam Chair. Does this resolution accomplish what we needed to say, given what we just heard you say, Todd?
I'll refer to Todd as he wants to answer it.
Well, because I specifically asked the judge. So the judge saw the resolution, as did the district attorney, because this was a request that came specifically from Judge Freilich. So he indicates this is what he needs.
I would also like to add, this will help us to get another judge. I have been in contact with the governor's office. I expect to be called any time to go down and talk to him personally for our new judge. So I just want to let you know I also have WCA is working on it personally so that we can get a new judge. So this will help the situation. I just would hope that you would support this so that we can move this forward, because it's just very, very important that we receive another judge.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, are there any other questions? Supervisor Draheim.
How many times have we heard this? I mean, we had to build a different courthouse here so we could have another judge. Well, we still don't have a judge, and it just keeps going. And can we really support another judge? All the people that are going to have to be secretaries and all that, we pay for all that. It's not the state paying for it. So we got to look at this very hard. We got room for them and all that, but so now we need a special committee so we can have it. Get a judge? Come on, give me a break.
We have to get the judge first before the committee.
Not done yet. This is ridiculous. We got to have this to make sure that we get another judge. This is just, how many goldarn hoops do we have to get through to get something? I mean, it isn't going to happen anyway. You know it isn't. It's fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right. Please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Draheim, could you confirm? Supervisor Shu, could you confirm? Supervisor Draheim, Supervisor Miller, Supervisor Stillman. You have to vote again and then confirm if it times out. Thank you. 17 ayes, 3 nays, 1 excused. It's adopted.
All right, the resolution has been adopted. Moving on to supervisor reports. Please push your button to talk. Supervisor Schwallenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As far as parks is concerned, the mountain bike trail, or the mountain bike people have completed the first phase of their trail system, and they're working on 4. One of the trails we're waiting for, is it the DNR? Because there's a concern about the escarpment, the way the trail goes back and forth. And one of them, which I looked at, was just the term gravity is straight downhill or whatever. So, but they've had one fundraiser already, if you've seen that on Facebook. There are, as far as our stewardship grant for our water system and our extra sites, we're waiting till the end of the year. We've been suggested that we wait in case the possibility of getting more than money than we expected. If you're familiar with the park, when you drive into the park, there's a stone fence at the entrance on the lakeside, which is deteriorating rapidly, and it's leaning towards the lake. And so we are going to have to either repair it or look at it being a safety issue and possibly letting it go. We have also been advertising for a camp host, if you know of anybody that might be interested in that position. It's usually for people who spend their winters in the south with a motor home and then come north for the cooler weather, and they can help us out at the park. There would be a site and just some minor duties to take care of. We have a new internet tower at Ledgeview, which I understand has increased the speed of the internet system out there, although it's proved to be an issue with the phone system, because if you're out there and you call 911 from that phone system, it's going to say you're at the courthouse. So you've got to tell them that you're at Ledgeview, because that's how it's hooked up. As far as human services, our meeting was on budget. We also welcomed a new veterans officer. I had expected to see him here tonight. He will be very easily identified. He's a very tall gentleman. Gregory Brittnacker, I think is his name. He's served in the Air Force and put in time in Iraq and was on duty in Minot, Montana, whatever, one of those states out there anyway. So very nice gentleman. Thank you. North Dakota? Okay. Always get my north and my south mixed up. So I also, I serve on the Human Services and Education Steering Committee for NACO. So I attended the NACO conference, several sessions on human trafficking and foster care and drug abuse among teenagers. Vaping seems to be a big problem, and if you've been listening to the news, we have that problem in the state of Wisconsin, and a neighboring county has had several issues. They're not really quite sure what chemical they're using, but have some real lung problems with them. Also, I attended a Central Region caucus that celebrated 50 years of the Vietnam War. I don't know if maybe I shouldn't use the word celebrate, and honored the Vietnam veterans. We have 4 of them that serve on our board here, plus our other veterans. The chair of that committee had, and I understand from Supervisor Lachey that this is a common practice, that they melt down the cartridges from ceremonies and make medallions out of them and present them to the veterans. And that's what this chair of this committee had done. Also, if you've ever watched and I'm sure you have, either the Democratic or Republican convention, NACO has one like that. With their business meeting, they elected a second vice chair. That vice chair went around and campaigned to all the states, and you sit there with your little state thing, and they say the state of Wisconsin votes for it. There were real issues, and tonight was a perfect example of what happened there. The votes were all off. It held up the vote for a long time because the states were saying they had more votes and whatever. It's a very interesting conference. If you should be able to get to the NACO website. All the sessions that they had and are on their website that you can see what was discussed. I also attended a session on parks too, and of course they're talking about the big national parks, the North Rim, and a ski hill in Nevada and things like that. But I also did find out that things that other counties in the country were talking about wanting to implement, we already do here. So we are very lucky. We are ahead of the game for a small county. And talking about some of our programs with some of the people from the other states, they were asking questions about, specifically one was our REACH grant through health, that the $125,000 grant we've gotten. They were wondering how that came about, and they had inquired about that. So that's, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Schwallenberg. I just have a few things. I attended the Wisconsin Counties Association Board of Directors meeting Friday, and Kyle went over quite a bit of the legislation that went through. Of course, the dark stores legislation did not get through the phase of the joint finance, and so they are not sure that that'll come up again this session. They expect to be done by February. They're still looking at a highway safety package, the county referendum, and a child support bill. He did indicate the 911 upgrade bill of $19.6 million went through, and that's the first year budget. And any money that's not used in that first year will lapse back into that account. And they encourage counties to look into that funding as they go along. I stood in for Todd at a Lake Michigan Day conference in Manitowoc last week, and we received a recognition, a conservation recognition for the work that we're doing on the Winnebago waterways. And with regard to Winnebago waterways, we're close to the implementing of a plan. There's various elements of the plan that we're going through, and the executive committee will be going through that with the group, and they hope to have that finalized by February. And then it will be brought to the county boards of Fond du Lac, Winnebago, and Calumet County. East Central is starting work on their strategic plan. I sort of pushed for this because I think we're at the realm where East Central is really doing more than they can handle. And so I suggested that we start work on a strategic plan to look at our purpose and what we can do and what we can't do, and we hope to have that finalized sometime in 2020. You got your conference material, was either given out to you or mailed to you, and that's all I have. Thank you. Supervisor Stillman.
Thank you. I got some information from this from the Centers on Medicare and Medicaid Services. They're coming up with a Medicare Medicare Current Benefit Survey. Okay, and it's being done by the NORC, which is the National Opinion Research Center, and it is designed to aid the Centers of Medicaid Service in evaluating their Medicare programs. Now it says 12,000 beneficiaries are added to the survey sample each year. Selected beneficiaries will receive a letter from this NORC in mid-July. They may receive a telephone call from this NORC. And then it says if a beneficiary contacts your agents with questions or concerns about the Medicare current Medicare Current Beneficiary Service Center, you know, there's an 800 number, and they could call the ADRC if they have any questions about this. It seems like everybody's getting so many phone calls nowadays that you don't know whether to answer the phone or not. So if you get something that comes up NORC, it's legit. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just an update on all the roads that are being done. LP is on its way of being finished very soon, the way it looks. County Trunk X is completed. There's a detour, as most of you probably know by now, 114 detour for culverts and some replacing of areas. And after that, then it'll be, when resurfacing goes on, it'll be flagged, so you'll be able to use it, but it'll be times you'll be held up. Plans are being drawn up for a County Trunk N at this time. You all know about the 151 detour. Be careful, there's a lot of places that you think you can go and you can't. And don't forget tomorrow morning, LAPC at 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Draheim. Supervisor Gens.
I just wanted to make a note that in our University of Wisconsin Extension Office, Tammy Gash, who has done an excellent job as our 4-H educator, has resigned. And so our university will be in the process of reappointing someone there to serve as our 4-H agent. Thank you.
That's too bad. She was very good at what she did. All right, that concludes our supervisor reports. We have the county administrator's report and appointments. Are there any questions regarding his report?
I just wanted to point out what was left at your spot at your desks from Dan. The investment report and the county sales tax collections report is also included there.
Okay, and then he has several appointments. He is appointing Supervisor Judy Hartle to the County Parks Commission to fill the vacancy of Jerry Koenig. The term will expire April 21st, 2020. Could I have a motion to confirm?
I have a motion by Supervisor Booty, second by Supervisor Draheim.
All right, is there any questions regarding that confirmation? If not, please vote your ballot carefully.
Still not?
Supervisor Dieter, Supervisor Stecker, Supervisor Lachey. There's 20 ayes, 1 excused.
All right, that confirmation has been approved. And I thought we had another one. Okay. All right, our next meeting is September 17th, 2019 at 7 p.m. And I adjourn this meeting. Thank you for your attendance.